So the brains of MAGA seem to be breaking over this new story related to some classified documents that were left behind at an office of then Vice President Joe Biden. Now, I have made every effort, and it hasn't been very difficult to be consistent about this story. Donald Trump should have and is being investigated for his handling of classified documents, including taking a whole bunch of them to his house and then lying about where they are and then avoiding returning them and all these different things. And Joe Biden should likewise be investigated. Now, the circumstances, of course, are completely different. We're talking about about a dozen or so documents with Joe Biden, and we're talking about hundreds or more with Trump. We're talking about something with Joe Biden where when his lawyers found out, they immediately notified the National Archives. It was the opposite with Trump. There is no evidence whatsoever that Joe Biden asked or was even involved in these documents remaining where they were, whereas there is widespread testimony that Donald Trump specifically said, take these documents down to Mar-a-Lago. There are no similarities, but I'm consistent. Investigate everyone and everything and see where it shakes out. Right-wingers' brains seem to have been scrambled by this. Here is Ronnie Jackson, who says he believes these documents were found as part of a conspiracy by Democrats to push Biden out before 2024.
Thing that could be happening here, Jen, is that I've been saying for a long time that the Democrats are going to have to figure out a way to get rid of Joe Biden. They don't want this man to run for president again. He's a recipe for disaster in the next presidential election. So I think, a lot of people thought it would be his cognitive issue. I thought so as well. But I thought, well, maybe they won't go down there because that's admitting defeat that they put this cognitively incompetent man in a position like the president of the United States. I said all along, I thought maybe they would let the Hunter Biden thing blow up a little bit. But maybe this is what they're doing. Maybe this is the first shot that they're going to fire to try to get him in a position where he ultimately has to resign or at least has to decide that he's not going to run again.
Yeah. Now, the reason this is very stupid is, of course, number one, there's no evidence of that. But number two, it doesn't really make sense because, as I talked about at the top of the show, why is Joe Biden a disaster in the sense that in polling against Trump, Biden is mostly winning for 2024? Unemployment is the lowest it's been in 50 years. Inflation has come down 6 months in a row. Wages are up. The idea that it's obviously a disaster for Biden to run isn't borne out by the facts. Now, here's Alina Habba, Trump's lawyer, who says, what about her being special prosecutor on Biden's boxes? Of course, there are no boxes. We're talking about 12 documents.
Alina, do you think this completely exonerates Trump from the Merrick Garland documents witch hunt?
I think so. And I think that more importantly, we should.
Oh, by the way, on this exoneration thing, they don't seem to get that just because someone else is being investigated for something, it doesn't mean you're exonerated. It's I used this analogy yesterday, and it's so simple, but it's so emblematic of this. If I am accused of murder and then someone else is accused of murder, I don't get to say I'm exonerated because someone else is now being investigated for murder. That's the argument they're making here, and it's a very silly argument.
Point out one thing very important. Donald Trump was the sitting president of the United States. He had the ability to declassify. The Presidential Records Act applied to him. Biden doesn't have that excuse. He was the vice president. Yes, now he's the sitting president, but these are documents that were taken during the Obama administration. They are in places that are not secure. He was not a president at the time. He had no right to them. I saw an article today, I believe, and it said that he had the Presidential Records Act. Incorrect. He was a vice president. He's not afforded those protections, and he doesn't have the ability to do so. So I think that this does help President Trump. Quite honestly, I don't think President Trump needed help because I don't think he did anything wrong.
Now, by the way, I know Alina Habba's an attorney. The research, she says the Presidential Records Act doesn't apply to the vice president. I believe it does. The research I've been able to find says that the Presidential Records Act of 1978 governs both the president and vice president. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that. I don't know.
We're cooperating, as you know, and that matter is underway, but
They weren't cooperating.
they have to show that they're going to treat everybody the same. And I would like to personally offer to be the special prosecutor on Biden's boxes, because
Yeah, there are no boxes, because we're talking about 12 documents that were immediately told. The National Archives were immediately notified by Biden's lawyers. Lastly, here's Claudia Tenney saying that Biden's the biggest liar in American politics. She may be forgetting about a guy who told like 14,000 lies during his presidency.
Look, I give her credit because to be the press secretary and have to lie for the biggest liar in modern politics is quite an extraordinary obligation and job. I mean, what's she going to say? He may not even know where they are. But look, I give her credit because...
So that's Republican Congresswoman Claudia Tenney. Now the story is Biden is the biggest liar that is out there. Their brains have been scrambled, and it's very, very easy to be consistent on this. We say, oh, anytime there's a question about documents and presidents or former presidents or vice presidents, investigate it and then go where the facts take you. What we know about the facts of the Biden situation and the Trump situation are so dramatically different that it's laughable to suggest there is even any similarity. But again, investigate everyone. Hunter Biden, investigate Hunter Biden. It's just not an issue for the House of Representatives, since it has nothing whatsoever to do with politics or the Biden administration. But if Hunter Biden broke some law enforcement, investigate them. This isn't about protecting Democrats. It's about having some kind of consistent standard about what we consider to be wrongdoing. As many people know, I'm a white ale type of guy when it comes to beer. And even for those of us who drink responsibly, like me, sometimes you still feel it the next day and it can slow you down, especially when you start to get up there in the years like me. Check out our sponsor ZBiotics, which is a probiotic drink that breaks down the byproduct of alcohol, responsible for those rough mornings after drinking. All you do is drink a tiny bottle of ZBiotics before you have alcohol. Next day, you'll feel refreshed and ready to go. The way it works is when you drink, a toxic byproduct builds up in your gut, and that's what causes you to feel bad the next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break down that byproduct, and ZBiotics stands by their product 100%. If it doesn't work for you, you get all your money back, no questions asked. Remember, we're talking about drinking responsibly here. I can't more highly prioritize getting a good night's sleep. ZBiotics is for responsible drinkers who just want to get the most out of the next day. Go to zbiotics.com/Pacman. Get 15% off your first order with the code Pacman. The link is down below.